I hear you.
Here we go, the Wrestling Vault with new Bixby head coach Ray Blake. Ray was an associate head coach at Stanford for a number of years and just recently obviously hired in Bixby, Oklahoma. Ray, thanks for joining us today.
Awesome. It's great to be here.
Excited to have you. I'm telling you, I think most people probably know you from the whole Shane Griffith Stanford saga. You guys all black in the corner at last year's NCAA finals. Please tell me you were the one that gave Jason Borelli the advice to wear the Jordans.
No, I don't have any style on his period. And Jason's the one. He has the shoe game, and he busted those out like an hour before the finals. Told us about him.
Talk a little bit about the All Black in the NCAA finals with Shane Griffith. Your time at Stanford, and then eventually, obviously, now you're at Bixby, Oklahoma. How that journey all came about.
Man, yeah, that's a lot to talk about. Very briefly, my time at Stanford, I spent 19 years there, 5 as a student athlete, and then 14 as a coach. So I was an assistant coach for 10 years, associate head coach the last 4. I had a great experience. Honestly, I loved it. Things shifted a little bit about a year and a half ago, July 8th of 2020. I woke up in the morning, checked my phone, said I'd been locked out of our social media accounts, and I thought it was odd. We created those accounts in 2008 and texted our SID, and she wasn't really sure what was going on. We got a Zoom invite about an hour later for a meeting that was going to take place in 25 minutes, and they dropped a bomb on us telling us that our program was going to be cut at the end of the season. And the last year at Stanford was an experience that I don't want to ever have to live through again. But whether we had succeeded in keeping the program or not, at the end of the year, it was going to be a fulfilling experience that we were all going to be better from, like, no matter what. And fortunately, we were able to persist and get the university to change their minds and keep the program. The all black thing, that wasn't something that we came out and planned to make this big statement at the NCAAs about,
Well, it sure did, man. I'll tell you what, it made a stir.
For us, though, it was just, the whole year, while we were trying to keep the program, we didn't really feel supported by the university. And we said, well, we're just going to do the things on our terms. And so we, in July, we talked about competing in all black the next year. And then when we did start competing during the year, we wrestled 8 duels in January. That was the entirety of our season, but we were wearing the black singlets and the Keep Stanford Wrestling hoodies then, and at the Pac-12s as well. And I think people just didn't really, us being a smaller school out on the West Coast and COVID and everything that was going on, didn't really grab an eye to put an eye on it until the NCAA tournament. But luckily they did, and that created a whole kind of groundswell of momentum for us.
Where were you before Stanford?
Go ahead, RJ.
So I grew up on the south side of Chicago. Went to a small Catholic school on the south side of Chicago, Marist High School. And then I went out to Stanford and wrestled collegiately out there.
Awesome.
Yeah, kudos to you and the whole Save Stanford Wrestling movement. Just an incredible, obviously, story. I know it's hard to relive some of that stuff. Jason Borelli just sent me a text with an awesome feature on Rockfin by Illinois Mat Men, sort of recapping that entire season. I mean, it gave me goosebumps. At one point, it showed you guys with mats outside, covering them with tarps when the rain came in. I mean, he told me that through the month of January and maybe throughout the whole season, you guys weren't even in your offices or wrestling room. True?
Yeah, so we weren't able to come back to campus last year. And so the university, the program announcement hit us during, COVID. So our team was scattered throughout the country then, and we weren't able to come back together and train on campus until mid-November. So we did a couple of remote training camps. We did an RTC camp in California and another one out in Chicago, just to kind of get the team together a couple times. But then we weren't able to come back on campus until mid-November. And about 2 weeks after we got on campus, the county guidelines shifted for COVID, and you couldn't do any indoor or outdoor contact activity. And it's hard to train for, the NCAA wrestling championships without contact activity. So the only loophole we found was that you could train outside, have contact outside with members of your own household. So we had to get the team living in kind of groups of 6 in the dorms by weight class. And so, 125 to 141 was a household, 49 to 57 was a household, and so on and so forth. And so we had to move mats outside. We had 4 mats outside. We had 4 groups of 6. Each group was training on a mat, and that's how we trained, outdoors from late November up through late January when we left to go on a road trip to compete.
Incredible. Bixby, Oklahoma.
Yep.
Stark difference from Palo Alto.
Woo-hoo! Yeah. Big difference out here. So my wife is from Oklahoma. She's from Oklahoma City. And so we'd come back to Oklahoma, a few times a year, every year for the last, 10, 15 years. I'm very familiar with Oklahoma, not as familiar with Tulsa or Bixby, where we're at right here, and the people here. So I'm getting used to them, just learning a lot of people and all that. But we knew we were getting into coming out here for sure. It's way different than Palo Alto, way different. But there's a lot of great things about it. You take the good with everywhere you go. You take the bad with everywhere you go. I'm really enjoying it, honestly.
Awesome.
You
Talk
just
a
talk
little bit
about
the first steps you took once you got to Bixby and trying to get to know the team and sort of settle your roots in Oklahoma.
Yeah. So we decided we were going to be leaving Stanford in late May. And we kind of knew all year that no matter how the things ended with the program, there's a high likelihood we would be moving on. And this is something we had talked about for a while. So we decided definitively in late May, and we got in the car and we drove out here in late June. I think I was announced as the head coach maybe a week after we got here. And then for about a month and a half, so we were actually staying with in-laws in Oklahoma City, and I was driving back and forth as we were looking for houses out here in Tulsa. That's where Bixby's at. And so we weren't able to move here until early August. And it's been a process. It's been, just getting used to the people, getting a feel for all the kids on the team, getting a feel for the administrators, our parents. But it's been going well, I would say. We started school. I moved out here on August 5th. We started school on August 16th. So for the past 6-7 weeks, we've been going. And in Oklahoma, they do it differently. So wrestling is built into your school schedule. So I come in and so I think my official title is the coordinator of wrestling operations, which
I think
I'm the head high school boys and girls coach right now, and I'm also an assistant junior high coach. So we have a head junior high coach, Garrett Evans, is doing a great job. But Garrett and I are in the wrestling room first hour every day with our junior high. And then I don't teach right now. I've got a job in the athletic department where I'm helping out with some sports information and helping some of the kids in the recruiting process. And then I come back in 6 hour every day. We're in the room with the high school. So it's nice right now. It's 3:45. I'm done for the day.
That's awesome.
But we're starting official practices next week, and then we can go a little bit longer. But I mean, it's been great. So for me, it's been trying to figure out, when I first got here, the big thing was just figuring out, learning as much about the program as I could, figuring out what was going well and what could be improved and how I could, help improve that. And what I found is we've got a great system here. Like there's a lot that's going well. We had a great team that's returning. Bixby was young last year and finished state dual runner-ups. They had 3 state champions, 10 state qualifiers, 5 state placers, and everyone's coming back.
Wow.
So we've got a great system. I've got great coaches. So I'm the head coach, but there are a lot of people that really got the program to where it is right now. My assistants are Shane Roller, who wrestled collegiately at Oklahoma State, was a 3-time All-American there. Kenny Giddens, who's been doing a great job. And honestly, he's one of those. We talked a little bit about Medlin being the best kept secret in collegiate coaching. Kenny is a big time secret here in Oklahoma. He's a great coach, and the kids love him. And then we've got 2 other guys that have been at the high school for a while, Brian Douglas and Austin Embry, who are helping with football right now, but we'll get them in December. But just their experience like being in the program for the last, Austin been here for 7 years and Brian's been here for over 10. It's just been helping me a lot with a lot of questions that I have. And then we hired 2 new coaches this year. Greg Evans, call him Money. He's been coaching the Tulsa area for 30 years, and he's a member of the Hall of Fame for the National Wrestling Hall of Fame Oklahoma chapter. Just great guy, and the kids love him. And he's been helping grow our girls program. And then this other guy, Garrett Evans, he came over from Keller High School in Texas, but he's young. He wrestled at Ouachita Baptist, was a 3-time All-American, wrestled for Kevin Ward and Chris Chinoma there. So great coaching tree and all that stuff. And my job has been a lot easier having, such good people around me.
Yeah, that's incredible coaching staff. It sounds like you get to be around a lot of good people. You kind of started touching on what you guys are starting to work on. You have a good program. There's a good setup. What are you guys working on preseason? I saw, you had a parent meeting not too long ago, just because some of that minutia, like what are you guys working on right now?
So for the past 6 weeks, since we've been going, we can't go past that 1 hour that we have with the kids, in 6 hour each day. So we'll have them, from 2:45 to 3:45 every day. We can't go as a team beyond that. We can't do anything mandatory beyond that. So we've been doing a lot of strength and conditioning. We've been incorporating our strength coach here at the high school. So by the way, Bixby football is system. It is a program.
Huge.
They're ranked in the top 25 in the nation. They won 40 consecutive games, 6 of the last 7 state championships in Oklahoma.
How many people does the stadium seat?
Well,
when you type in Bixby, Oklahoma, that stadium shows up. It's incredible.
Yeah. Our stadium, I think, is about 8,000. But I know we have more. We can get more in there, and I've seen it because not only will all the the bleachers fill up, but the people around the sides and in the end zones and all that stuff. But our football program is running, and we have a lot of dual sport athletes, and that's one of the things I'm kind of figuring out as well. And I think it's a great thing. But with our football program just running like a machine, we have a lot of things we can take advantage of from a strength and conditioning perspective over there. So we actually have our seventh and eighth graders, learning, cleans and snatches and all that stuff right now. But we're doing a lot of strength and conditioning stuff. And then we're just doing a couple days a week on the mats. So the way that the rule reads in Oklahoma is you can't have organized collegiate style wrestling practices until October 1st. So we are doing some skill. We're doing some skill stuff, but it's freestyle right now.
Freestyle skill, right?
Right. So it's everything, there's some things that are transferable, right? But nothing crazy, nothing hard. We're not doing any, live or anything like that. What I'm trying to do is build our bottom up so that when we get to where we can really practice, our team as a whole can move forward a lot quicker.
When you talk about bottom, you're talking about the green kids on the team.
Yeah. And that's been one of the kind of transitions for me is going from a program where you're recruiting the best, high school student athletes in the country, and everyone was a state place winner or a state champion or whatever, to a room where you've got kids who are ranked in the top 10 in the country, and you've got kids who literally it's their first day of wrestling. And so, and I want to make sure that we have a program where those kids don't feel undervalued. Like I want to make sure that everyone feels committed to the program and the team and the family success as much as anyone else. So what I've been doing for the last 6 weeks is trying to show a lot of attention to those kids. And we've been doing very basic fundamental stuff just to get everyone to a competent level to where we can, as a team, move forward quicker when it comes time to do that.
Can you just speak on I have 2 questions. They're not necessarily related, but, in getting to those green kids or the new kids that maybe first year wrestling, What are you doing, number one, to connect with those kids or bring them out? And then specifics on what you're working on. And I want to touch on the football piece too when you're done with that.
Yeah. So connecting with the kids, that's tough. So at Stanford, we used to do, we would do like individual meetings with all the guys. So we would split up our coaching staff, and each coach would grab, 7 or 8 names, and we'd set up, 20, 30 minutes every week to meet with guys one-on-one and just talk about things, outside of wrestling, just to make sure that everyone, we were building connections with everyone on the team, because as you guys know, coaching really is relationships at the end of the day. And that's tougher to do here. It's tougher to do at the high school level. And I haven't figured that out exactly just yet, and I've been pulling kids aside, in the office here and there and just chatting. And if you see something like, that they're doing well, just, hey, good job, one-on-one, like talks, I think are good. So they see that you see them. But I haven't figured out exactly how to really connect with them on a one-on-one.
Mass produce it, right?
Yeah. In terms of what we're kind of doing to make them feel like valued or so on and so forth, or to get them involved, or what we're working on with them, honestly, so we are doing some technical stuff, like I talked about, very basic, positioning for, leg attacks and very basic hand fighting stuff and all that. But what we're really doing is pushing our program's core values. We kind of branded them. We have 6 core values, and they're all things that, are things that'll make you better wrestlers, but also make you better students, better, better teammates, better employees later on in life, all that type of stuff. And these are things that no matter how good you are in wrestling, you can control, your level of commitment to these values. And so like kind of pushing that to the people who are new and getting them to understand that, it's not your skill level right now. It's how, willing you are to commit to what we're asking of each member of our program. They see that that's something that they can control, and they can, perform to that standard. And I think it's motivating to them. I think I'm seeing change. I think I'm seeing progress, which is a good thing. So
are those the 6 core values that you guys came up with on your own?
Yeah. I'll be honest, they're the ones we had at Stanford. Family, integrity, passion, sacrifice, hard work, and positive attitude. We called it Cardinal Caliber over there. I call it Bixby built here. And it's kind of like a cheesy little tagline, but it's something you say quick, and everyone on the team and everyone, all the parents, they know exactly what you're talking about. Are you Bixby built? Are you being Bixby built? Is that Bixby built? Right? Like, so yeah. And like, everyone's values can be a little bit different here and there. Right. But for me, it's just something that I know works. And honestly, the fight to keep Stanford wrestling was our core values in action. It was our core values put to the test, and I've seen it work. And I know that it works, and I know that everyone can control, their effort and their willingness to commit to these values. And once we get the right culture, then everything else is a lot easier.
Yeah, I assume that within each of those core values, it's different for every kid and the way that they perceive those or approach those different ones. And, I think that's probably some discussions that you guys are probably having right now about each of those individual core values.
Oh yeah. We when you see kids that are doing the right things, you point them out. When you see kids that aren't doing the right things, you point them out. And you talk to the team about them. And I'm not big on like yelling at the kids, and, I want to treat our kids with respect, but like treat them as the young adults that they are. I would rather that they don't feel scared into, to acting a certain way. I would rather that they understand, what the expectation is, and feel empowered to hold themselves to that standard. And we actually just last week, so I could actually show you real quick, where I'm in the office in the wrestling room right now, and we had to have a team talk about our core values. Make sure that door doesn't lock, and we had some kids that weren't doing things the right way, right? So our room right now, we got a lot of space, by the way, which is
Wow,
great.
look at that. Yeah, that's awesome. 4 mats.
So we're doing a lot of 4 mats. But we got these pillars that I wish we could get those out, but I think that's stuck as it is. And we're doing some like branding work. So I do want to get like our core values and our history and everything up on the walls pretty soon. But until that's there, we had to have a team talk last week where I had to physically just print out our core values and tape them on the walls. And we sat over here and we talked about each value and what it means. And we had a team discussion, and I made the kids talk and about what each one meant to them. And I think it was positive. I think it was good, and that's why I say there's little things that aren't maybe necessarily, wrestling technique related or anything like that. But if we all buy into them, it's going to make, us getting our technique and all that and just becoming better as a team a lot easier. I think
just something to add on to that, as I see, and you're kind of talking about bringing the bottom along. We have kids in our program that will kind of bring these kids out for wrestling for the first time, whether it be a freshman or even a senior for the first time. And a lot of times my initial thought as a coach is like, I'm going to have to waste my time with this kid as a senior that's coming out for the first time. Right. And the more I've gotten to do it, we've had some gems come along, and it has nothing to do with the wrestling. It's just more about their personality and what they do to the wrestling room personality wise. But then, you have these guys on the team that, they're my best guys that are bringing these guys along. It's for them. They get to come to practice and be with that kid that they enjoy being around. And it kind of changes things. So it's changed my perspective on, bringing that bottom along. I'm changing their life, but they're also making practice on a day-to-day basis because they know how to crack jokes or they know how to do things. I don't know. It's just the kind of thing when you talked about the bottom. I don't know if you could speak on that in your experience.
I can't. I honestly, I can't really speak on it because I've been here for 6 weeks. And that's when Mitch texted me about getting on this interview, I told him, I was like, it may turn into me interviewing you guys because you guys have way more experience at this level than I do. And that's been one thing that I've definitely been doing over the last 6-7 weeks as well, is I'm very fortunate, after recruiting for the past, 14 years, to have relationships with some of the best high school wrestling coaches in the country. And I think you can't have an ego, right? And so for me, I've been reaching out to as many people as I can, like anytime I have a question, or how do you do this? How do you do that? Or people are sending me, handouts and write-ups and like things like that, and just giving me ideas. I think
that what you just said is so valuable for our coaches to hear, our high school coaches, because it humanizes, Ray Blake, who is a college coach coming down to the high school level, and he needs help, and you have people out there that kind of get super intimidated about the effort that goes into being a good coach and building a good program and all those things. But just because you're a college coach doesn't mean you know everything. It just comes down to learning the basics of connecting with kids and running a program and things like that. So that's kind of actually really refreshing to hear.
100%. And I rely on my assistants heavily on that end as well.
Ray, and being such a social media presence, I mean, you were noted as a 2014, I think, assistant coach of the year when it came to social media. So you built Stanford's social media empire within the wrestling community. It seems like you got a lot of work to do there in Bixby looking at those bare walls. So I'm excited to see what you produce. Obviously, RJ's created a brand at Lowell, and we'd like to think we've done the same thing here. In creating a brand at Bixby, you have a top 25 team. You indicated yourself you have 3 state champs returning, multiple other guys coming back. What are you most excited about?
What am I most excited about? That's a great question. I'm excited. So we have a great team. I'm excited to win. I'm excited. I'm excited to compete and figure out what kind of team we have too, because I really don't know until we start competing, just how much progress we're making and how good some of these kids are and how far we have to go. I'm definitely excited for that. But what am I most excited about? I'm most excited about creating the right culture. I'm most excited about creating good kids. Or helping create good kids. I'm most excited about getting kids who maybe weren't thinking about going to college. Excited about wrestling and opening up doors to college for those kids. I'm most excited about growing our girls program. Where we had 2 girls in our high school last year, and we've got 6 now, and we're slowly getting there. But like that women's wrestling, that's 50% of the population, right? and being able to offer wrestling to more people is great. And I see where women's wrestling is going, and I want to build our program here. Because when I talk about like, what's going well and what can be improved, man, I almost feel like on our boys' side, there's a lot that can be improved, but there's a lot that's already going well, So when I think about like the impact that I can have, I see the girls' side being a big part of it. And then I see building the right culture on both our boys and girls' side, so that we can have sustained success. It's not just, a 2 or 3 year thing.
Yeah, I'm inspired by that because you see an associate head coach of Stanford come down to the high school level, and his focus right now, it seems to be like on elevating girls wrestling. I mean, with the announcement of Iowa starting their girls freestyle team, just an explosion of excitement, I think, around the country. Michigan obviously is working at trying to endorse female wrestling as an official sport. Where's Oklahoma on that?
So we're sanctioned. So Oklahoma sanctioned girls wrestling a year and a half ago. So they've had 2 state championships now. And I would say, though, coming from California in the Bay Area, women's wrestling or girls wrestling has been sanctioned as a high school sport for over a decade, and in every room you saw a lot of girls in there, and it was just a part of the expectation. And here we're a little bit behind California, I'll tell you that. But we're getting there. And I know that there's support at the collegiate level. There are collegiate programs in Oklahoma with women's wrestling. And I think, we're going to see some D1 programs in Oklahoma with women's wrestling before long as well.
Yeah, let's cross our fingers with that. Hey, Stillwater's getting a lot of recognition. Piccolo, obviously, down there. You just had a young man commit to Oklahoma State. Mm-hmm. Wrestling in Oklahoma is great. What do you know a little bit about Bixby and your rivals? I mean, who's the biggest rival in Oklahoma for you right now?
Honestly, I don't pay attention to that stuff. I probably should, and I think when we start competing, I'll figure it out more. But I think probably on paper our biggest rival is probably Stillwater, I would guess. Broken Arrow is right down the road, and I know Mustang's doing a great job down there, and Edmond North is crushing it. Hardale has done a great job, and with the OWA, and those kids are coming through now, and they've got a great high school staff. So I know that there's great competition out there, and I'm sure I'm missing people that I'm just not saying right now. But for me, I'm trying not to get in any of the drama, right? Like, I don't really want to be a part of that. And I'd rather just focus on ourselves and what we need to do to be better. And I called, actually, Ethan Kyle called me probably a day after I got hired. Rod Jones of Broken Arrow called me, a day or two after I got hired. I talked to both of them, just talked about like, yeah, when we compete, we're going to compete. But until then, it's better for the state if the best, programs are working with each other and have good relationships with each other. So that's ideally what I would like to have.
That's awesome. Well, in closing, RJ, you have anything in closing?
Well, I just think, number one, I just love the humility and, the lack of ego, and just kind of going into a big program and focusing on core values, so it's like the byproduct of all those core values would probably be a winning culture, will probably be, some state championships as a team and things like that. But the focus really isn't on double legs and high crotches and grinding out and clubs and all that thing. It's about working with your kids. So it's kind of refreshing hearing that, and I hope our coaches kind of picked up on the same. And just wish the best of luck to you. And I know it'd be nice to get down in Oklahoma with the wrestling vault and have a little connection there.
Yeah, it'd be awesome. And maybe we'll figure out something on the schedule at some point in the future as well.
Sounds fair, Coach. Hey, give our friends the Tulsa Pin Kings. There's an all-star club down in Tulsa who just joined the wrestling vault. So tell Coach Reed and the Tulsa Pin Kings we said hi, and I'm sure maybe you'll have a few of those guys in your room over time.
Will do. Will do.
All right, Coach Blake, thanks for your time, and the best to your wife and family and your new start in Oklahoma.
Thank you. Appreciate
Yeah, thanks,
you.
Coach.